Something I wanted to talk about today is validation and how insidious this need is. Validation has been something that's been so sneaky in my experience. And I'll start at a more gross level. Many of you have already seen my social anxiety video, the liberation to social anxiety video, where I went into depth about essentially how I struggled with social anxiety growing up through, especially really potently in my teenage years. And up until recently, have I really been able to see the underlying mechanisms at play. And I'm constantly humbled by the nature of my own mind to seek validation. And it's just remarkable how it shows up, especially in a spiritual context. So I'll just recap a little bit, but I want to go more into the subtleties in this practice. And just to prelude that, my meditation teacher, Angelo DeLullo, well, the primary person I consume information from, he says not until really late stages of realization does the need for validation actually start dropping away. And if I heard that probably like a year or two ago, I would probably suspect that, yeah, okay, he's onto something. And there's something really important for me to see there. But at that point of practice, it didn't land at the right time. And I'm like, yeah, but also let me just focus on de-identification from thought more or something. And eventually that will show itself to be more poignant in my experience, which seems to be the case very much so now. But anyway, prior to going into that, yeah, my story is essentially validation has been something I pursued without probably having the words for it for a very long time in my life, which largely contributes to social anxiety, but not really. And social anxiety is sort of dropping away more and more. But the mechanism at play was essentially, I need to fix myself. I need to fix the problem of Sam by doing things like self-help and even meditation, which I'll get into, in order to be more appealing to others, or to be able to show up into the world so others can look at me and be like, wow, Sam's really getting it together. So a lot of the pursuit of spirituality ended up being a pretty significant orientation toward wanting validation. And that was really hard to see. But yeah, and I want to... I'll fast forward a little bit, so because it's very easy to talk about the gross, significant brushstrokes of this path, of what it's been like as it's unfolded. In if we're talking about assuming there is a timeline, only until recently, especially being with my meditation teacher, have I really been able to identify this need for validation and this pursuit of validation in my experience. And a really significant shift occurred for me just recently, probably in the past couple of months, where I watched a video interview with Angelo on his channel, and he was speaking to someone called Nargis, who's this beautiful woman, non-duality, spiritual sort of I don't know what you would call her, like an influencer or a facilitator, but she's got some really good things to say on spiritual practice. And she essentially said that to sort of relinquish the spiritual seeking energy, the one that always feels like there's something wrong with it, and it's trying to use spirituality to escape from something, or like get some insight that's going to liberate it, become really laser focused and actually consider this question with so much earnest that it becomes the most important thing to you, that it's why am I practicing spirituality in the first place? Why am I practicing self-help in the first place? And if you're anything like me, when you heard that question, like you heard people point to that in the past maybe, or maybe you've never been pointed to it, but why do I want to practice this? It can push you away. It's like, yeah, I know that's probably an important question to answer, and I should probably take some time to think about it, but I'm just going to go back to keep de-identifying from thought, or I'm just going to go back to my self-help practices, or my Vipassana meditation, and just, feeling as it is with perfect equanimity. Yeah, that's what the mind does, because it's like preoccupied with a goal of getting something, or like it's seeking energy. That's what it is. It's like, okay, I'm gonna just get this technique. I'm just gonna meditate and find the right technique, or read the right book, or read the right sutra in the grand text that's gonna finally reveal to me this insight that's gonna fix me or something. So we avoid that question. Why am I practicing spirituality and self-help, or whatever you're doing, like the plague? It's so interesting though. Like, and I empathize with it, because I did it. I really did it. And but holy shit, when I really, and I don't know if you can even fake that. Like, I actually don't know if you can say to yourself, okay, I'm really going to pursue this question with earnest until the conditions line up. But I would be skeptical to trust that, because there really is, for me, there was a huge amount of gold in pursuing that question with genuine earnest. And this is going to tie back into validation, trust me. But yeah, when I really started to ask that question, there were a couple things that arose. I'm like, okay, I'm really trying to fix myself. I'm really trying to not fix myself, but pursue this spiritual path. But what would that get me? I really want to know, what's that going to get me? And just taking this radical, honest approach of like, oh man, I just want validation. I just want to be okay so that I can show up into the world and essentially have other people think that I have it together. And that took some real digging. Like, I really had to, and pushing through like squirmy feelings to get to that place. But it's like, I just want to appear okay so that, yeah, people can like me. Or there was, and it wasn't just that, there was definitely other motives. Like, I just want to feel ease. I just want to be okay.
Yeah. But that's why I was like, I'm not.
Sorry guys, I just had to pause the video because my partner got home from dropping my stepdaughter off at school. But yeah, she's back now and we're all good. So where was I? Now that had been identified for me, this need for validation with earnest inquiry into that question, it was, I think what's sort of been unfolding is this more and more subtle inquiry into different social situations. So just going out into the world and then just being in different situations, being around different people, different types of people, different people with different like energetic dispositions and stuff like that, it's so interesting having it bring out these sorts of, like, you could call them contractions or protections. So for instance, if I was around a family friend or a family member, they might bring out this different pattern of like, oh man, I just don't want to be seen right now or something. But then when you follow that and you bring this unconditional loving view into it, it's like, okay, I don't want to be seen, but what would that get me? Oh, I don't want to be seen because then there's shame underneath that. If I'm seen to be like uncomfortable in front of this person, I'll be ashamed if they see that. And why do I want that? Oh, it's because I want them to see that I have it together so that I receive validation from them. right? So, and then, and validation serves a really important purpose. And I don't think it's bad, but I think it's important just to see it for what it is, more importantly, because, right, so what does validation do? It's there to help you, like, get love, for instance. So if I'm not validated, people will just kick me out. I'm not part of the tribe. I'm not part of the collective, the group, and I'll just be alone. And what happens if I'm alone? Oh shit, like, I'll be unsafe. I'll be unsafe to, like, predators, right? This is what the nervous system does. It goes very deep. It's very primal. That's why validation is this really deeply seated thing that we really sort of need, and we have needed as a tribal, not tribal, but a social species, which we have been for hundreds of thousands of years. So you can either take this approach of, like, why do I need validation? Why is this here? Or is it like, oh, wow, why is it here? Why do I need to feel validated by this person? Or this person who brings out a different energy in me? Why do I need, like, feel like I need more validation from them than I do this other person? It's so interesting. It's like, so maybe there's someone who has, like, an angry way of showing up. So it's like, why do I need validation from the person who's more angry at me versus the person who's, like, playful? Because, the person who's angry might actually threaten my safety because they might lash out at me or something, like, and it's so nuanced and dynamic for each individual person, which is why I think we need these tools like focusing or killer bee inquiries have been super powerful for me. Michael Zorov, who I just didn't upload an interview that I did with him he taught me these incredibly powerful tools that I now know how to use really well and dynamically. So it's almost like I'm becoming my own therapist in each situation that precipitates itself. But I want to continue down this rabbit hole of validation and take it to the spiritual side as well, which I think has been super fascinating for me too. I know, for an instance, and I talk about this jokingly, and sort of I have such fascination for the mind now that I'm happy to talk about these subtleties, and especially with you guys who are the sorts of people who really are interested about this sort of thing and how it can play out. But what's become more prevalent recently is this, especially on the spiritual realm, and I've seen this play itself out when I'm making these sorts of videos for you guys, is I can have these thoughts, right, that sort of say something along the lines of, oh wow, look how present my eyes look, or something like that, when I'm making a video. And it's like, oh wow, I'm noticing a tendency for me to self, like, compliment myself. Like, what's that doing for me? Oh, if I have present looking eyes, then I'll get validation from other people because they'll think I'm special. Right, so this spiritual specialness starts precipitating itself, starts becoming more apparent as well, and or in, like, social situations. And I had an incident the other day where I was just in this social gathering, and I just felt really open-hearted and relaxed, which is in a big social gathering situation. And I was, like, noticing I'm like, oh wow, I look the thought was something like, I feel really, like, spiritually present, and I look like I'm moving spontaneously and playfully. Or it's hard to describe the specific thought it was, but I sort of had to mine that up. I'm like, I could feel this sort of this background hum of that wanting to be there, but until it was sort of quote unquote dredged up, or, like, the light of attention was shone onto it, I wasn't able to be seen. So it took a bit of inquiry to bring that up and notice how, oh wow, I've even got this spiritual specialness thoughts that are coming into my experience that I want to that are trying to get me validation. And that's really hard to see too. And I genuinely think there's probably spiritual teachers out there and stuff of that nature that they still have these thoughts, but they piggyback onto them, and they form these like identities of spiritual specialness around them, especially people who have just had like this explosive big insight into no self or something. And maybe that goes unseen for a very, very long time. But for me, it's just like, I want to see everything. Like, I don't care. I don't give a shit about, all I care about is actualizing this existence to be fully, to see through everything. Now, a mental image of this like divine deity comes to mind with this like sword of cutting through the sword of ignorance and being willing to see absolutely everything that's in its path. And then ultimately having there be no delusive hindrance or hindrance in the first place. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say about validation. I just think it runs very deep and it's very easy to bypass it. But my invitation for you and what's been really fruitful for me in my experience is to look there, really take that question on, like, why do I want to even practice spirituality in the first place? If that's one thing I could wish if you get out of this video, is to really look at that question. And I've seen you, I remember reading about it in like Daniel Ingram's book, like make sure you clarify that, and hearing it from spiritual teachers. But until I really, just the conditions aligned for me, yeah, definitely go there. Because it's a very powerful inquiry if you take it all the way. If you take like a day, like what's one day in your spiritual path, right? This long spiritual path that you've been on. Take one day to really ponder that question. What's one day? And yeah, like that has the potential to really be incredibly revealing for you. So yeah, anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you think in the comments, and chuck a like if you helps out the algorithm so more people can see this content, and if you found it helpful. So yeah, thank you so much guys. I'll see you in the next one.